Yes.
Real quick.
Mhm. Good evening. Looks like everybody is here. It's City Council meeting. Call the meeting to order. Regular City Council meeting for November 2nd, 2021. We have the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You have the clerk's meeting announcement.
Thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting. Pursuant to AB 361, this meeting will be held entirely virtually. All methods available for public participation are detailed on our agenda. Thank you.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos? Here. Councilmember Oro?
Here.
Councilmember Washington?
Here.
Vice Mayor Joseph?
Here.
Mayor Garcia?
Here. Roll. Go ahead now. Report on closed session, confirmation, reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, you convened an open session at 5:05 p.m. to address the matters agendized for closed session consideration. With respect to the first matter, there were 4 matters of anticipated litigation, and with respect to that matter, there is no reportable action under the common law attorney-client privilege, and that provided by Government Code Section 54-956.9D2. With respect to the second matter, there also was no reportable action under the provisions of common law attorney-client privilege, and that provided by Government Code Section 54-956.8. You concluded closed session at 6:23 to reconvene an open session. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll proceed now with our agenda, proclamations and presentations. This evening, we have a proclamation for November 11, 2021 as Veterans Day. I'm very honored to read it this evening. City of American Canyon Proclamation. Veterans Day, November 11, 2021. Whereas the citizens of the City of American Canyon, joined with communities throughout our nation, and saluting the dedicated men and women of our armed forces, past, present, express our great appreciation for their sacrifice. And whereas the City of American Canyon honors all veterans, especially the present and former residents of American Canyon that are currently serving in the military or are veterans of our armed forces. And whereas for over 200 years, millions of Americans have answered the nation's call to defend our freedom against all enemies. And whereas defense of freedom comes with great loss and sacrifice. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Leon Garcia, on behalf of the American Canyon City Council, Urge all residents to join the city council in recognizing and honoring the valor and sacrifice of the men and women of our armed forces, past and present, on November 11, 2021, Veterans Day.
I just checked with Lisa, I got back about 10 minutes ago. So something going on, I need to know about.
Next on our agenda would be
I think everything's fine, but the police.
recognition of storm event
I'll go ahead and
report.
close the door just to make sure.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. A week ago, last weekend, not the most recent weekend, the weekend before last, a significant rain event occurred across the Bay Area, including in American Canyon. Somewhere close to 10 inches of rain were recorded out at the Napa County Airport, which is a really large amount. Our area, on average gets 23 to 24 inches of rain a year. So 10 inches over a weekend is quite significant. Fortunately, most of our drainage facilities and creeks and such were able to withstand that amount of rain. Lake Kimberly showed up as designed, that detention basin. Our storm drain facilities generally did their job. We had an area, one small area that we're still troubleshooting, but wanted to just highlight and recognize the staff that came out, worked through the weekend, worked in the rain overnight, really ensuring that all of our facilities were maintained and kept running. So I'd like to mention Ron Renata, Edison Bisnar, Bob Dunn, Steve Jardy, Tony Reja, Eric Rosenberger, Mark Wrinkle, Brian Matern, Rick Hall, Dominic Patrick, Chris Alexander, Thomas Valenti, Stuart Cole, Jay Atkinson, Josh McCallie, Nolan Garcia, David Accurso, Ray Wisleiser, Chris Morris, and Jordan Slaba. We're all part of the team that were out there in that inclement weather to really keep things moving along. So thankful to them and just wanted to recognize their efforts. So thank you.
Thank you. Please express the appreciation of City Council for their dedication. And I know it was the evening certainly was filled with challenges, and we appreciate all the extra effort they put into it.
It was. Lake Kimberly was as full as I've ever seen it, and all the facilities seemed to work as we had hoped. So thank you.
Very good. Next will be presentation of fair housing of Napa Valley.
Yeah, Mayor, regrettably, in talking with Pablo Zahataren, we had a scheduling conflict with him unwittingly, and so he's asked if we can't push his presentation into our next meeting. So he's not going to be here tonight, and we're going to have that presentation 2 weeks from now if the council's okay with that.
Very good. Thank you. Always good to hear from Pablo Zahataren and what's going on there, particularly this time of housing challenges related to the economic conditions we're facing. Okay, public comment, items not on the agenda. Have we received any?
We have received no written comments. I do see some hands up in the audience. I have Jason Kishna. Go ahead, Jason.
Hello, thank you. How are you this evening?
Good evening, welcome.
I'm commenting on behalf of the numerous people who I've seen asking for measures to combat speeding vehicles on Wetlands Edge, James Road, Elliott, Dan Rose, Melvin, and Teresa. On behalf of parents whose children use those roads to walk to school, and of pet owners who have sadly lost family members to speeding vehicles. Like many other people, I use many of those roads to get around highway traffic. I am one of the minority of drivers that always goes the speed limit on residential roads because I have seen how speeders affect the residents of streets like these, and I'm usually tailgated and sometimes even passed. Residential neighborhoods are supposed to be for residents. Children should be able to play outside safely. Pets should be safe to cross roads. That's why residential zones have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit and not a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. It is time to put speed bumps in all these roads. I'm sick of hearing about children being struck by cars or almost struck by cars because a driver was traveling at an unsafe speed. I'm calling on this city to finally step up and do something about it. I know the fire district opposes this because it'll add a couple minutes to response times, and I'm well aware of the plans to reduce traffic through east and west side connectors, as well as the NVTA and Caltrans plan to either widen the highway or install roundabouts, but these are simply not enough. It's up to you guys to keep the children of this community safe, and I think you guys really do a good job, especially with the sidewalks on Donaldson Way and on James Road, but now it's time to go further and put speed bumps in. Let's not have one more child hit on any of these roads, not one more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
So I have Hugh Marquez. Go ahead, Hugh.
Hello, Council and Mayor.
Good evening.
Talking today of, I want to commend you. It looks like the faucet at Northampton is being installed. I see some cones, and it looks like that's being done. And I commend you on trying to getting that done in a timely manner. I do have a question though, as I'm trying to figure out, is a bathroom going to be put back out there as was before by the baseball diamond? We have many children out there practicing baseball. We have people playing basketball in the parks, and there's no place to use the restroom. And so I was wondering if the city was going to put that back out there as it was before COVID. I know COVID sort of put a damper. I requested one at Wetlands Edge, and that was eventually put out there, which I'm also thankful for, because people were pooping and peeing everywhere. And so I'm grateful that you guys have put one at Wetlands Edge. So that was a question I had about Northampton. Road conditions. Rio Del Mar from Elliott to Carolyn is atrocious. The road is just, it's falling apart. And I'm trying to find out, I know that we have a 5-year plan. And I've talked to the council before about this, and it's so, well, we need to do the underground, and in that area, Rio Del Mar, it looks like all the underlayment has been done except for the repair of the road. And so I'm curious if the council has any kind of plans, future plans of restoring, of fixing our roads. I know that I was in Antioch, working in Antioch, and they have a plan that they resurface. They don't repair, they resurface parts of their city every year. They put just a coating of asphalt over it. So I'm curious if that part of Rio Del Mar has been thought of being repaired. Thirdly, or fourthly, as Jason said, we have many people driving up and down our streets at very unsafe speeds. Well, I don't know if it was Jason they were passing. I've had people coming out of the back of Safeway where I was pulling out, and people were flying around, somebody going the speed limit because they were going the speed limit and wasn't what they wanted.
Hugh, you have a 20-second warning, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I've talked to our chief, the police chief, about speed bumps, and he never didn't give me a yay or nay. But something needs to be done about the speeding in our residential areas. And my 20 seconds is up. I see you looking at me.
Yeah, sorry, you're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Beth
Thank you. Next
Marcus.
speaker.
I have Beth Marcus. Go ahead, Beth. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I want to tag on about the traffic. Just tonight, right before city council meeting, as you know, I live on Melvin Road, and across the street from me is Les Lawson's property, which is vacant. In fact, Mark was walking by today and we were just talking about that. When it's raining like this, we have idiots who go out there, do donuts. Some guy was out there tonight doing, I don't know how many donuts, came off the road and almost hit my next door neighbor. Now, we did call the police, and of course they came. They knew who the guy was right away because my neighbor got a picture and I got a picture of the license plate and the individual. But that's another issue we have on Melvin Road as well. So I just wanted to tag on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Next speaker?
I have no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, very good. I wonder if you might be able to address some of these comments regarding traffic, your manager report on the agenda.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to our agenda. Any agenda changes, council? Next up is our consent calendar. There are no changes requested. I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second, roll call.
Yes, Councilmember Abadamas,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joseph,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you, council. Next, moving on is our public hearings. Item 9, SB 1383, solid waste ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As Public Works Director Smithies jumps online here, I think we also have some folks from Recology and some consultants who are helping with this. So Teresa's going to move them over. This is
If you could raise your hand, please, attendees that are part of this item.
I think Jennifer Arbuckle is one of those. Teresa.
Thank you.
This is Derek Nelson, yeah. So, Mayor, this item is in response to some legislation from a while back and doing it for a multiple of reasons, including coming in compliance with this new state law. And we've had some recent outreach with the community around this, but want to turn it over to Erica and let her share the staff report and talk about this new ordinance.
Thank you, Jason, and good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the public hearing this evening. Does everyone hear me all right? Just want to make
Yes, we
sure.
can. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Okay. As Jason has provided, this is a state mandated requirement. This SB 1383. The city brought on Jennifer Arbuckle to assist with the ordinance, drafting the ordinance. We also have Derek Nelson with Recology here in attendance. I believe Jamie Smith may be in as well. She's the zero waste specialist. In case there's questions directly technical related and or for Recology directly. This is just the first step in adopting the ordinance. The next steps will be the final adoption of the ordinance and then the implementation plan. And we'll probably take about a year to work out the requirements the state has passed down to all the local jurisdictions. It'll be necessary to coordinate with Recology and possibly an amendment with rate changes in the future, because there's a lot of unknowns with this new ordinance as it rolls out ahead of us because there's a new enforcement responsibilities on the city, in addition to monitoring what Recology providing the service for the city and the constituents, but following up with them as well as residential and commercial businesses as needed and public outreach needs. There is a potential of a notice comply resolution, SB 619, that gives jurisdictions some leeway in the event that we cannot meet 100% compliance by January 1st of 2022. There'll be more to come on this, but I just want to touch on that as it was brought to my attention yesterday that it's new because all the agencies are concerned about being compliant, having everyone go 100% organic by January 1, including our residents. We did have public outreach beginning in July or June at the first meet in the street event held by the chamber. Jamie Smith of Recology attended that one as well as the August event. We then had two community outreach meetings in October and as recent as last night. We did not have many attendees, even though we put those in our utility bill inserts. And I think Recology also reached out to customers and we reached out to the chamber. It just wasn't a glamorous item to listen into on a meeting, but we're trying to get out there. We know there's going to be questions as soon as this goes into effect, and as well as the financial burdens of the city as far as moving forward with the enforcement that'll probably roll out in 2022. But as I said, those will probably come to a head as it rolls out. We won't know. There's a lot of unknowns with this new ordinance. It's not new really, I actually just came back from England, and it's something that they're dealing with now. It's a very small continent, and there's, very limited areas for solid waste to be implemented. So organics and food recovery is something that's already implemented, but it's just new to us, and it's part of their climate action plan into being sustainable. So we're just please bear with the city and Recology as we all roll this together. I just touched on the items, the food recovery aspect of this. The county is taking the lead on a countywide study as far as food recovery aspects. They just received proposals in and are going to be interviewing 3 candidates that will be helping identify food recovery, maybe as a county unit or as by jurisdiction, and more to come on that as it comes to our attention. So with that, I would ask any questions of council they may have, or if they have any questions of Recology directly, and or Jennifer Arbuckle, our consultant.
Well, this is, these legislations also come before the Napa Valley Waste Management Authority. I represent the state of American Canyon on that. And yes, it will have its challenges, but obviously the need is there. And I think probably for American Canyon, best we can work with is city staff and American Canyon Chamber of Commerce to get the information out and see what requirements people can in fact implement for this. Some areas may be constrained with their capacity to handle that. That needs to be addressed as well, just being through the legislation. Mr. Nelson, good to see you. I think we had met at a Vallejo Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Mayor, good to see you.
Well, let me just say welcome to American Canyon, such as school meetings bring us together.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here and happy to work with city staff and yourself as we navigate 1383.
Thank you. That Vice Mayor Joseph, you have your hand up.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for the report. I guess the immediate reaction is, so what's going to change? I was talking to the city manager, and it looks, as far as residents, such as myself, the change will be instead of putting food scraps in the gray container, we start putting them in the green container. And that sounds like that's the beginning and end of our responsibilities as homeowners and residents. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll let Derek answer.
Okay, I was going to say, if that question is directed at me, I'll be happy to answer. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. As far as residents go, the biggest portion of this is to dispose of food waste inside of their green container.
Okay.
There is a great impact associated with that, though.
Oh, now we didn't cover that in the staff report. Okay, so just in terms of what changes, residents pretty much just put their stuff in a different container, and the biggest challenge will be able to figure out whether or not it's a food scrap or something else. So that seems like it shouldn't be too much of an upheaval. But for commercial, it sounds like suddenly they're going to have to start renting a green yard waste container so that they can start putting food scraps in that instead of anything else, and therefore they're now going to be paying for a green container that otherwise they just would have had a bin that they threw everything into. So that'll change their relationship a little bit, and there'll be a cost for that.
Correct. But with that migration of material, there's also an opportunity for commercial customers to downsize their trash container because all of those food scraps would now be going into the green container.
Okay. And then the last piece to the puzzle, when I was looking through the draft ordinance, it just sounded like we were asking the businesses to track how much food waste they were throwing away. And that seems like a burden that maybe isn't worthwhile, because theoretically Recology is going to be collecting all that, and Recology can say this is how much food scraps we got. And even though we can't tell which business or home provided which, I'm not so sure we need to know that. So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can revisit the ordinance, or at least the implementation of the ordinance, to streamline some of this paperwork so that Recology is the keeper of data and the local businesses just need to worry about throwing the food waste in the right box? Or am I misunderstanding the process?
I haven't reviewed the ordinance, so I'm not familiar with that requirement in the ordinance.
Okay, maybe I misread it. But
Actually, there is a section in there. I'll let Jennifer Arbuckle speak to this. And since she wrote the ordinance, so I'll let her speak to that item.
No problem. Hi, Mark. So no, you're absolutely right. So it's in the ordinance because it's part of the new state law that commercial businesses, they are having new responsibilities where they don't have to track like their exact tonnage or anything like Recology is going to report in about, how many lifts and how much organics are coming out of your city, but they are responsible for monitoring their on-site bins. So they do have responsibilities as far as making sure their employees are all trained. That means anybody new that's coming or anybody that's, getting up into management or whatnot. So they have to do some sort of tracking. Like it will be the city's responsibility to go to each of the businesses that are large generators and some of the smaller ones and just make sure they're actually paying attention, using all Recology's, education and what goes in their bins and what does not go in through their bins, and making sure that all their staff is up to speed. The city and Recology, I haven't talked to Derek yet, but I'm sure, we'll do, when they get a new recycling coordinator and then Derek's recycling coordinator, the whole goal is to work together and make sure all commercial businesses have all the information, tools, inside containers, things that they need to help implement the program. But it will be a change for them because they do, under now state law and under this ordinance, have a new responsibility.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember David Orr.
Yeah, so didn't really have too many questions. Now I got confused about color and money. So currently in my home here, and this is for the residents here in American Canyon, we have a gray bin, which is basically all trash. We have a light blue bin that is recyclables. And we have a green bin that you're saying that we put the food scraps in now, correct? And I read those food scraps and you guys did a great job of describing anything that is compostable or of sorts. Is that correct?
So that's compliant with 1383, but currently our program does not include food scraps in the green waste cart.
Okay,
Currently it's only yard waste. And the reason for the difference is the cost of processing. We pay about $50 a ton to process yard waste. As soon as we start introducing food waste into it, the regulations on that processing are much more stringent, and the cost of disposal or processing goes up to $82 a ton. And so we need to look at those residential rates and kind of cover that delta.
All right. So, but my food scraps and the leaves that are coming from my tree are going to go into that green bin.
Yes.
All right. So I'm not getting a fourth bin.
No.
Okay. All right.
All
So that
compostable materials will go in that bin, even soiled papers.
Okay. So that would be a much more used bin because you can process more items, not just compostable yard clippings or waste of things of that nature, right? So, how does $82 a ton translate into a rate for residents?
So I need to work with our rate analyst to get that delta. I'm not prepared to answer that. But the good thing is that disposal is not the only cost associated with collection. This is just one of the many segments. And so we're not talking a 60% increase in total operation costs. It's just related to the disposal. That's not fuel, that's not employee, that's not truck. It's just the disposal portion. So I don't anticipate it being too much.
Okay. But we have to adopt this now to be in compliance with state law, right? And so this cost that we are passing on to residents or to your customers is being mandated by the state, not the city.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Albadamos.
So I don't know if this question is for Derek. First of all, thank you everybody for being here tonight, and thank you, Erica, for your presentation. I'm actually really excited about this. I brought it up, I think about a year ago in one of our council meetings, and I think the city of Napa had already started doing it. There was a local city that started doing it.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, but I don't know if you're gonna have the answer because David kind of asked a variation of what I'm trying to ask. So currently our green bins are free and our gray bins are the ones we pay for. So you mentioned earlier, Derek, that this could be an opportunity for us to downsize our gray bins, which means a lesser cost. But since we're gonna start paying for our green bins and there's gonna be less garbage in the gray bins, do those go to being free now?
So currently, the green and blue bins, they are free, but they're really subsidized by the cost of the gray bin for residential customers. For commercial customers, they pay for their green bins currently. So currently, there's about 30% of the commercial customers in American Canyon are already subscribed to the service and doing it. And that's a program that we've been doing for some time in American Canyon. So we are confident that we can, roll that program out to the rest of the customers, but there is already a charge for commercial. For residential, the only change, it's still going to be subsidized by the garbage bin, but the total rate will increase. So even though you're only paying a set rate, you're paying for all 3 cans.
Okay, so what about our fixed income residents? Is there some kind of something in place for our fixed income residents who maybe can't afford to pay more for garbage?
Yes, so we have a lifeline rate currently, and that will still apply to those residents as well.
Okay, and I'm assuming lifeline rate that's similar to the care thing that PG&E does? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Point out one thing with food waste. I've been the household composter for years. Got a great garden, grows great vegetables. Master gardeners of Napa County have come down to 20 workshops on household composting. Even have an opportunity to get a free compost bin. If you can separate out items that vegetable waste can be in there, peelings, etc. Those are okay to put in that. Anything that has meat origin in it should go in a green bin. I'm assuming that's what's going to be on that list as well. More of a health and safety issue with that. Are we ready for public comment? Oh, I see Councilor Abadamas has your hand up again.
All right, I'm just thinking because my husband and I have been doing a lot of landscaping yard work recently. So I'm just thinking about mixing food waste with yard waste and how it's going to start sticking to the bottom of the can. So,
Yes.
right? Because food waste is a lot more sticky. My leaves, come right off and dump into the garbage can. So I don't know. I guess that's not a question. It's just something I'm thinking about.
And that's a valid concern. There's ways that you can mitigate that by putting the food on top of your leaves or inside of compostable paper bags.
Mm-hmm.
That'll help because those bags would be compostable as well.
Okay, because you can't put garbage bags into the green can, but
No.
you can put compostable like paper bags in there.
Absolutely.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
No plastic goes in the green waste bin. Right, are we ready for public comment?
Yes.
Okay, public comment is now open. Do we have any?
We have no written comment on this item.
If I can add,
With a hand up, but it went quickly back down, so I have no hands up. Oh. Okay, I have Jamie Smith.
Mr. Nelson, did you,
yeah, I just would like to add, I know, Miriam, you mentioned that Napa has been doing this for a while. Recology is actually the first company to roll out a residential compost program in the United States. And so I'm confident that we can, we will do this in American Canyon.
Very good, thank you. You had a public comment, speaker?
Okay, Jamie Smith, go ahead, Jamie, you're on mute.
No, that's okay. I'm just attending.
Okay. Then I have Karen with her hand up. Go ahead, Karen.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Mayor. I guess my question for this garbage and yard waste, food waste issue is, what if you've already got the smallest garbage can? How is that going to affect you?
So if you already have the smallest garbage can, you can't downsize any further than that. So you would have a rate increase that's just specific to the ability to add food waste into a green can. You'd be impacted the same way as most residential customers. I think the people that will have the biggest opportunity to downsize would be the commercial customers, like restaurants that are putting, 96 gallons of food waste into a garbage can. They can now move that into a green can and may not need that 96 gallons of garbage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I have no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, very good. With that, we'll close public comment portion of this. We can do council for further discussion. Anything further, council? We do have an ordinance to deal with this evening, if council's amenable.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion and adopt the ordinance number next in order. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of American Canyon, California, modifying Title 8, Health and Safety of the American Canyon Municipal Code to add Chapter 8.20, Mandatory Municipal Solid Waste Recycling and Compost Material Disposal Reduction.
And I'll second that as a first reading of the ordinance, just to clarify.
First reading, thank you.
Yes, okay. Motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joseph,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you, council. We're now in our agenda, business item, National Community Survey.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Demima Mann is here also to join us. I know Teresa will bring her over in a second, but wanted to bring this item forward in response to a previous council feedback and direction to me relating to community engagement, specifically interest in the council and my own interest in surveying members of the community and to really understand how the community is feeling about different issues in the city. The city last did this kind of a survey in 2015, and we used the same service that we're proposing to use now. And one of the reasons that we're proposing to use the National Community Survey model is because of their national benchmarking. They do this for hundreds of clients across the nation. And so they have a massive data set, and we're able to compare ourselves with jurisdictions across the country, and we can customize how we compare ourselves, little cities, big cities, California cities, that sort of thing. And there's a lot of really great data. They're a professional surveying firm and really the gold standard for engaging residents about various issues. In the council packet were some of the proposals and some of the options that are available to us. One of the things that has changed since this was last done is a more subscription-based model now. In the past, it was more of a one-time survey at actually a higher cost. And so now it's more of a subscription-based type model. And we can choose to just do 1 year subscription or continue to do surveys in subsequent years. Right now, what is just proposed is to modify our budget and to move forward with just this year's survey, this fiscal year's survey. But the subscription model is based on being able to be part of the service and have access to the data all year long, and then be able to share that information and draw analysis from it. In subsequent years, if we wanted to continue this subscription, we could do that. We could do this kind of survey every year if we felt that was necessary, or we could do it every other year, or that sort of thing. There are other kinds of surveys that this group offers as well. So really taking a a step to continuing that engagement with our community. And I do want to turn it over to Demima and just ask Demima if there's anything else maybe you wanted to add as far as either process or the kinds of things we could expect should we move forward with the survey.
Great. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me all right? I'll do the Zoom test before I
Yes, we can. Go ahead,
move
please.
along. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I think that was a great summary. We first developed the NCS, as we call it, the National Community Survey, back in 2001 in partnership with ICMA. Of course, we modernize it and refresh and refine it over time, but we do truly think it is the gold standard for this type of survey. It's meant to measure overall community livability as a whole and yield you actionable data for moving forward and making sure, bringing in the voice of your average resident into decision making that can help inform strategic planning or budgeting or prioritization. As the city manager noted, we last worked with American Canyon back in 2015. Since then, we have merged with Polco, an online civic engagement platform. So now we're able to offer more features in-house than ever before. During the 12 months while we'll be conducting the survey for you, you'll have full access to the Polco platform where you can post additional content if other issues come up throughout the year and you want to reach out to residents. You can build a panel of your residents there. You can pull from our library of content that's been vetted by our in-house survey experts. So there's really a lot of great benefits without a cost increase. So that's always a win-win. So I'm here tonight really to just answer questions anybody might have. If there's anything I can clarify about the process or the survey or the platform, I'm happy to do so.
Well, thank you for that. I think it's something that's timely, I think, for us to look at it again. Certainly, we do it from time to time. Polling of our community was more, it seems to be more of a limited to a particular topic. I think it helps us since 2015, that's a few years back. So I think it's timely to move forward and re-examine again. I think service we provide is for our community as a whole, and we need to understand how they're receiving that. And sometimes there's other mechanisms to get responses that we may not be able to acquire easily. So I think it's helpful for us to have the information to know what's top on people's agenda in terms of our serving the community and how we would go about prioritizing and addressing them. So I think it's very useful to have. Vice Mayor Joseph, yeah.
Yes, well, I would agree with the mayor that surveying our community is important, and it's a comprehensive survey. So it covers how our residents feel about our various services, how they feel about the community, and so on. So I'm on board with doing the survey. My question really is, the agreement says it's from November of this year through June of 2024. So that would imply to me it's a 3-year agreement. And I don't have a problem with that, other than to be clear that if we're going to engage in a 3-year subscription and we can have a survey once a year, that I would say it would be our policy to do a survey every year, even if it's the same questions, mainly because we should get our money's worth. But beyond that, I think it's important to track our customers' feelings. It's important to be able to compare and contrast to see if we're doing better or worse. I know we talk about quality of life being a real important, almost a mission statement for the city. And it's difficult to define quality of life, let alone track it. But at least if we defined it as it's what our residents think it is, and we have questions along that line, it becomes a very effective way, a key performance indicator, as Councilmember Washington would put it, to track probably the most important fundamental issue. How well are we doing our job for the customer who we're doing it for? So I'm on board with the survey, and I would suggest that we commit to doing an annual survey because we're paying for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Vice Mayor Joseph just said. I am a data guy. I love data. I think it's one of the most useful mechanisms to measure how we're doing. So my only question to you is, do you have other cities that are using that we could benchmark to see how they are using the data and how satisfied they are with it?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to provide a list to city staff after the call. If you want to see some resources, some references. We work with a lot of communities in California: Palo Alto, Sunnyvale, Livermore, Richmond, El Cerrito. Just a few off the top of my head, but there's a lot more in the area. So happy to do that.
Yeah, because I'm just curious to see how they utilize the data and how satisfied they are with it. But I like the concept.
Great.
Vice Mayor Joseph?
Yes, that comment reminded me that one of the nicest things about this survey is that it is not just comprehensive within the survey itself, but the fact that so many jurisdictions use it. That the real appeal is the ability to compare ourselves to cities of comparable size or nationwide or region-wide. For example, looking at the 2015 survey, I think one of the questions was, do you like living here? And we had a really high percentage. Well, that sounds impressive, but it turned out that almost everybody thinks highly of the town they live in. So you really need that comparison to say, okay, we're at the 80th percentile and nationwide it's 75, so we got something going on. But if if we're at 80 and everybody else is at 90, even though it sounds impressive, there's something wrong. So it's that ability to compare ourselves to other jurisdictions that really makes this particular package appealing to me, at least, because that's really the name of the game. So another reason why I think this is a good idea.
Thank you. I think it's kind of a last minute thought for me on it, because I attended the Napa County Supervisor Redistricting workshop today. And part of what they look at in terms of redistricting is communities of interest. And, they mentioned different ethnic groups within the county, Hispanic and Asian, I think the largest Asian population is in fact in American Canyon. Does your survey take into consideration communities of interest such as that?
Yes, and in the quote we provided a couple of options for in-language translations. I believe Spanish and Tagalog, I believe, was the other
Tagalog,
ones.
yeah.
Sorry. Yes, and we could provide additional translations if needed. It is difficult to get responses back from non-English speakers, but it's certainly important to be equitable and have folks have a fair chance to respond in their own language. And we do have some kind of tips and things we can share for outreach in the community. If you're going to do an open participation version of the survey, which comes with it, that can be a great way to get the word out in harder to reach communities.
Yeah, I think some of the information been passed on to us word of mouth. Some years ago, the school district did a survey of languages at home, and they found out there were 38 different languages spoken in American Canyon. So I don't expect that you'll have to do all of them, but certainly the top two are English and Tagalog, or Spanish and Tagalog. Any other comment from council? Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that we do as much as we can to reach all of American Canyon. We are ready for public comment on this matter at this time.
Okay, I have no written comments on this item, and I see no hands raised at this time.
Very good, then I will close public comment at this time. We return to council for further discussion.
Mayor, one thing I wanted to share real quickly, just to set the expectations around the survey. We're looking at doing it in the first part of 22. This time of year isn't a great time to try and get survey responses and stuff put together as we head into the holidays. We're just going to miss people's attention. So we're looking at the first part of next year. One of the things, Dumimo mentioned the open survey component. So the idea is to have a statistically valid survey. So they have moved to more of an online version of this. So they will pick a statistically representative sample for American Canyon, and those folks will receive a written three-part envelope, basically with survey information in it and pre-packaged return envelope and the whole 9 yards. Not everybody, not all 5,500 or so households that we have will receive that package. It's just a statistically representative group. Another group will receive a series of postcards inviting them to participate in that exact same survey, but doing it online, and that'll be another group. That's part of the statistically valid survey piece. But what this new subscription service also offers is we can kind of open up the survey to anyone who wants to answer that, right? So kind of like how we use our SurveyMonkey and some of the more less formal kinds of surveys we do of the community, it's a version of that. So it's not going to be commingled with that data. The statistically valid data will be kept separate, but it's a way that anyone in the community could have access to that survey. And we can potentially get a broader sample of folks, albeit not in a technically statistically valid kind of way like the professional survey is going to be. So just wanted to make sure you all had caught that piece, that not everyone is going to get an envelope in the mail. It will only be a statistically valid group who will receive that or a postcard, but everyone will have an opportunity if they would like to participate.
Cool. If there's no further discussion, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2021 next in order. A resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon approving appropriation authority and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with NRC at Polco for the National Community Survey and Polco Annual Performance Plan.
I'll second that with an understanding that we would conduct the survey annually, consistent with the agreement.
Would you make that part of your motion?
I will make that part of my motion.
Thank you. I'll second it.
All right, very good. Okay, motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdamas.
I have a point of clarification. Does that mean, Vice Mayor, that should be included in the resolution?
It
The
could.
resolution doesn't say that we're going to be doing a survey annually. It just says to buy it.
Right. And so I guess my point is I just want to be clear that since we're paying an annual subscription for an annual survey, I just want to make sure staff understands that that is a work assignment that's done every year. It can be part of the,
We understand the intent, and I actually don't think the resolution needs to be modified. We would need to budget for it in subsequent years, right? So this action is only the budgeting in the current year. Subsequent subscriptions would need to be budgeted in outlying years. I think we understand the intent of the council, and quite frankly, we're going to want to, as we budget for that again and talk about next year's survey, we're going to want to engage Polco and go, we want to do the exact same one, or we want to tweak it and we want to make some changes. So verbatim, I don't think we're wanting to tonight exactly do everything for the next 3 years. I think what the intent is we want to create a pattern of surveying because it's important and trends are important.
Yeah. I think as long as the minutes reflect council direction, I think that's more than ample.
Okay, my vote is yes.
Okay, Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joseph,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you, Council. Now move on to management and staff oral reports. Mr. Hawley.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Couple of management updates. Brent has an update around just what things are going on with the cannabis ordinance and projects. Erica has a couple of updates on capital projects. So maybe we'll start with Brent first. Teresa, if you wouldn't mind bringing Brent over to give an update on where we stand with proposals for cannabis projects. And then after that, we'll move over to Erica and she can update on the capital projects.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor Garcia, members of council, and residents at home. I'm Brent Cooper, Community Development Director, and I wanted to give you an update on our cannabis use permit applications since the City Council adopted a cannabis ordinance in 2019. There have been some amendments since then as we kind of work through the process, but at this point we have 3 use permit applications. We have two that were submitted in spring of 2019. The first one is Element 7, and this project includes manufacturing, distribution, and non-storefront retail. That's another term for when you order cannabis online and it's delivered to your home. They had proposed a 7,000 square foot building at 1300 Green Island Road. In November of the same year, staff checked in with the applicant with kind of a schedule on how to complete the rest of the process. But it wasn't until September 2020 that the applicant informed staff that they had a disagreement with their property owner and were looking for an alternate location. We checked back with them in September of this year, and they're still interested in their application and looking for a new location. So that one, I would guess, is on hold. The application hasn't gone to hearing yet. It's still in the review process. We have a similar story with a second application that was applied for in August of 2019 called Resan. And this too is a more integrated application. It includes cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, non-storefront retail. This is a 82,000 square foot warehouse, and it's proposed at 834 Green Island Road. This would be new construction. Similar to the other application in November 2019, we gave the applicant a schedule to complete their application. We've been in communication since then, but at some point along the way, the applicant and the property owner weren't able to reach agreement on certain details. We did check back in with them in September, and were informed that they're undergoing arbitration, so there's a possibility this might move forward. The third application, this is more recent. This one is Fume. The Planning Commission actually approved the application in January of this year. And like the others, it includes indoor cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and non-storefront retail. This one would occupy an existing warehouse building on Klamath Court. And but it hasn't moved forward, according to the applicant, for several reasons, including COVID and some of the consequences of that. There's a lack of community professionals to design the tenant improvements. So they're a little bit behind and asked for an extension of their application approval. They have acquired a partner to conduct their non-storefront retail business. That's the delivery component. This is fairly new, and they've just applied for a modification to their use permit to accommodate that. And they've been in touch with our cannabis processing consultant, HDL, for technical advice on plan modification. So that one, it went through the process, it was approved by the Planning Commission. They have a partner, they're engaged, and they're moving forward. And so that one is one, would appear to be one that will begin operation, looks like next summer sometime. So that's my update. If you have any questions, glad to answer them.
Sorry. Question from council?
I have one. Just a clarification. I was looking through some of the prior year audits, and it looked as if we had a negative balance in our fund for collecting fees to process all of this. Has that corrected itself, or are we still, the goal would be to not incur any general fund expense to process these applications. Are we there yet?
I'll have to check back with you on that. We do collect a fairly significant deposit that we charge towards for our time. So I'm not aware that we have a negative balance, but it might be an accounting issue where I think the cannabis funds were sequestered. It may be that the charges were through like the regular account. I'll have to get back to you on that, but there shouldn't be a situation where we're in arrears in collecting the reimbursable expenses.
Okay, thanks.
Part of that, Vice Mayor Joseph, had to do with we incurred expenses leading up to the cannabis ordinance and prior to any application. So we ran that and started from a negative position. So I think if we had taken a snapshot in time, just where we began to see new applications, I don't think you would see that same circumstance. But in order to get where we were prior to receiving an application, we incurred costs, some with staff, mostly with the consultants. And so I think some of that is a reflection of that.
Okay, that's right. Thank you.
Anything further? Particular pilot, council? Thank you.
Well, I know that public comment isn't a normal thing, but in light of the fact that this was driven primarily by one of our residents who's still on the line, Mr. Mayor, would it be appropriate to allow public comment or?
Don't know of any reason like to oppose it. I mean, who's on the line? I'm not seeing him.
Well, Jason Kishneff has been kind of a strong advocate.
Is he still on the line?
He is in the audience.
He is in the audience.
Oh, he is in the audience. Okay, sure. Well, if you'd like to comment, certainly.
Jason, do you have any comments? Yep. Okay, there you go.
No, thank you. I think that my comment will be more appropriate as a public comment at the next meeting. But thank you, Councilmember Joseph.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kishneff. All right.
The next management update that we have, Mayor, will come from Public Works Director Smithies. Erica will have an update on 2 capital projects, and I believe Teresa will be moving her over in a moment.
She's over. She's ready.
I'm here. Good evening again. I'll start off with Green Island Road. Right now, the most near-term updates is the California Golden Road is scheduling the utility board work, the 2 railroad crossings on Green Island Road. This will work that's going to support the Rule 20A, 20B utility underground project. It's all paid for, permits are in hand. We're just waiting for their contractor to schedule the work, which will take some place this winter, probably pending weather. But this winter that will be happening. The joint trench plans are completed for the overall undergrounding project for the Rule 20A, 20B, with the anticipated start time of spring 2022. This will take a full year of construction. We submitted an application for Caltrans encroachment last week, or the week of last week in October. So we anticipate that going through with no issues and should have a permit by within 45 to 60 days. We are working with NHA advisors on the financing plan for the second bond issuance. There's been some development to date on those as far as the prior portions of the district haven't been developed yet. And so from the first bond issuance, the second one, we now have additional development to consider in that second bond issuance. The EDA grant application resubmittal or new submittal is underway. We've been receiving quite a few letters of support from our elected representatives regionally, statewide, and nationally. So plan to submit those as attachments to our new application. The roadway improvement plans are at 90% design with the construction ETA of spring 2023, which will follow the underground project. So we're not expecting any hiccups. Right now we're on schedule. This is going to happen, and we'll update you as more comes down the way. Are there any questions on that project?
From council, Vice Mayor Joseph.
Yes, two questions. There was some concerns at one point about AT&T participating in the joint trench effort, and then the second one is, have we secured all the right-of-way necessary to do the project? Or actually, there's a third.
Okay, I'll let you finish the third one.
The third one, I mentioned to the city manager on commerce, the question of whether or not or how much effort would be required to add I think it's a class 4 bike lane on commerce. So that's my third. The first two are critical path analysis kinds of questions. The third one is how much effort to augment the plan, because I think a class 4 might be very practical. So those are my 3 questions.
I'll touch on the right-of-way first. The right-of-way, we're in the final stretch with the last acquisition as far as an agreement. I don't want to share more details than that, but we are very close at this point with the property owner. The AT&T is still an issue as far as the participation. Whether or not to participate, we still need to get their concurrence on the design. As far as the design, we don't want to start designing or constructing this joint trench and they say that it's inadequate as designed. So we're trying to work out getting their response. I'll need to follow up internally on that one. That was brought to my attention today, and so I'll need to follow up on that with our city attorney and manager. And the third one, I don't see a problem with it, but we need to investigate further unless Jason would like to chime in on his thoughts on it as far as commerce, but we could definitely look into it, I think.
Yeah, no, we've batted around that idea for a while now. It's a pretty large right of way. Technically, there are no parking signs out there. I do observe parking going on out there, but there are no parking signs. So that effectively, what are those parking lanes today? Could be relatively easy, I believe, restriped and turn. These would be on-street class 4 lanes. So these are not. It's not new curb gut or anything like that. It's on-street class 4s. Protected lanes, so that folks could use the trail that's partially built now already to the south by the school. Once the additional piece of that trail is built, then we would really have a connection. There is going to be a class 1 bicycle path on the north side of Green Island Road, all the way from Commerce to Paoli Loop and all the way up Devlin Road, which is under construction right now. Pieces of the Vine Trail under construction. So that really would provide some class 1 linkage and eventually could get you up to the Bay Trail that way. So some linkages there. And, we haven't designed that, Vice Mayor Joseph, but as long as you're not moving curb lines, it's really just fancy paint.
Okay, great. That would be wonderful. And I bring it up because the Bike Coalition, Patrick Band, raised it with me and it seemed like a good idea. So I'm sure he'll be happy too.
Good work. It will help certainly as all this comes together, maybe a little more traffic off the highway and people commuting to work on a bicycle. Reduces vehicle miles traveled and increases personal health, well, physical activity. Good. Thank you.
Do you want to give an update real quickly on Eucalyptus Sidewalk,
please,
Erica?
Yes, design is essentially done. We did update the plans since our last meeting, so those were very preliminary plans. I believe I updated in September. The right-of-way is still the critical path. We have preliminary title reports in hand. The assessor or the appraiser, Associated Right-of-Way Services, was out last week evaluating the properties. Working on preliminary waiver evaluations, which I believe will be ready by the first week of December. It's very difficult right now getting appraisals. I think we were cautious of that in our first update on the council a month or two ago. But that's really our critical path when it comes to construction and implementation of the sidewalk. That's the easy part. It's really going to be getting through the appraisal process and making the offers to the property owners. And we have made contact with them, and so far it all looks good, but you just don't know until those letter of offers are received or negotiated. This negotiation start with the property owners. But that's where we're at. Design basically complete. You just got to get a bid package ready. That our critical path is going to be the ultimately the negotiations with the property owners on the eucalyptus. So we're still on the same path. We're still on the same path where we were. We provided cautionary that if we had to go to, hopefully not an eminent domain approach, but this all could get well, we'd probably start construction probably early spring, but we still want to be hesitant about how quickly that can happen, depending how negotiations go.
Erica, do you want to give a little update about looking at the north side of the road and potentially shifting some of the alignment and some of the obstacles that we've investigated, shifting the road to the north?
So thank you, City Manager Hawley, we looked at shifting the road over to accommodate on-street parking on the south side of Eucalyptus. And in doing so, it really starts cutting into the hillside. We have to factor in that there's a future Ridge Trail connection going east-west on the Eucalyptus Road, which would then further impact the hillside, and also a utility pole, which, if anyone knows PG&E, it takes a long time, 6 months to a year, to get them to relocate or even put a meter in some instances. So it would really delay this project further and increase costs if we were to shift the road over. But if it was to be accommodated by a future development project, that's one thing. But for just a sidewalk gap closure, really trying to minimize the shift over to the north as much as possible. And I'm welcome to share cross sections of that in the future if you like. We did prepare some cross sections showing the impact to the hillside and as well as the utility lines.
Do you have any of the number of pedestrians that are using that street right now, commuting over to the school, the new Napa Junction School?
I do not, unfortunately.
It was something I don't know, given the relocation of the campus to the new school, then the pedestrian traffic, I'm assuming, will change likely as well. And by a large number before were coming out of Rio Del Mar section of that school district across Teresa. Now I think since it's on the opposite side of that allocated area, then I would expect there to be more foot traffic going east-west. Okay, well, something for us to be aware of. With that, I think, Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, Erica, there's a piece about maybe 50 yards of a ditch. I know it's to the north. Is there anything that we could do about that ditch to kind of, I know it's not, I know you just mentioned you don't want to cut into the property line, but that ditch just seems like it's a hazard in itself, just being in the present state.
So the concrete ditch, the plan is to shift that portion over and put a storm drain pipe. It's a concrete ditch now, and put in either HDPE pipe or storm drain, and widen the pavement path over that ditch. Since it is pre-existing concrete, it's engineered. It's not if you're worried about unlined ditches and permits, it's not the concrete lined ditch. Replacing that, putting it in, covering it up, and then putting the curb in off against the hillside.
Okay, so you've already calculated that into the plan. Thank you.
We're working on it. You're welcome.
Anything further, Ms. Hawley?
No, Mayor, although I would just ask Erica, there were a couple of public comments earlier this evening. Were any of those that you're prepared to answer at the moment, or that resonated with you with a quick answer?
Rio Del Mar, I know that was, I believe, Hugh Marquez regarding the Rio Del Mar as far as paving. It is scheduled on the Measure T 5-year plan for year 24-25. Seeing that we stated that plan, it might shift out a little further since we were a little delayed with COVID on our outlay, our 5-year plan, but it is on the list to be reconstructed in the near term.
What about toilets at the park?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. I can take that. We're going to look into that. We did put some of the porta potties back elsewhere. These are porta potties, not permanent restrooms. We'll take a look at that one. I'm not sure why we didn't put it back, but we'll take a look at that.
And I, on the subject of Rio Del Mar, actually the 5-year plan, could someone send me a copy of the 5-year plan or the latest version of it? A resident wanted to know the status of any repairs on his street, and I'm still trying to get a copy to get it to him. So
For that, Vice Mayor Joseph, because I was thinking exactly the same thing.
it's back on the website? Okay.
Under Public Works, under Streets and Traffic, you will find it on the website.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, Erica, I meant to mention also that on that one stretch I was asking about with the drainage, several residents reached out to me and were very complimentary of you in your approach to talking with them and meeting with them, the communication piece. I want to tell you publicly, thank you for your reaching out and showing your consideration for their concerns. So that was really, really a pleasing piece for me to kind of have those conversations, knowing that you are also articulating what's going on with them so they understand what's going on. So thank you for, taking the time to talk to those people.
Thank you for that feedback.
Okay,
That's all we had, Mayor. Thank you.
Related public comment related to speeding on streets. That seems to be kind of an ongoing issue, but I think at some point we need to work that up for our consideration, reviewing it. The donuts in the streets out there, I see them in intersections in town too. Obviously, it's one of those things most likely late at night when we have minimal officers on patrolling. All right, we're moving on now to mayor, council comments, committee reports. After that, future agenda items. So mine are included. I just would like to mention the Halloween trick or treat drive-through event conducted by the PTA associations was awesome. I think there was probably I heard from Derek Flathers, who was the lead on that. We had about 450 kids in there. And that was pretty close to the end, so there was probably a few more got in. So it did a really good job of managing that. I would just say, as a team member, we all had our assignments and it went without incident. So good event for celebration for the community, and good to see as COVID restrictions wind down that we are finally getting back to what is our normal. With that, anything further to add to yours, Councilor Oro?
I have nothing else to add, sir. Thank you.
You're in the Travis training.
Yeah, I am. I'm an honorary commander at Travis Air Force Base. I'll be going to another event on Friday. So looking forward to being part of that program.
I'm a graduate from a few years ago. I love the inside of that. What do we have there? C5 aircraft, fighting stuff. Okay, Councilmember Washington, anything further?
Yeah, actually, I thought Councilmember Oral was about to show us some skills and take off in that plane. I saw him sitting there, so real nice. I just want to remind everybody next Thursday is Veterans Day. And we just like to have as many people come out and attend that ceremony. It's going to be about an hour and a half, but we have a lot of veterans looking forward to coming out, and we have a guest speaker as well. So looking forward to that event and nothing else.
Thank you.
11 o'clock. 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Right. No, it's great that I think we do a great job of honoring our active military and veterans in American Canyon. So it's always a good moment to be there. Councilmember Alvarez.
I have a question for Councilmember Washington. The Veterans Day ceremony, unfortunately, and this is kind of blasphemy, but our office is not closed and I can't make it. Is there going to be a Zoom link or some way to join online digitally? It's going to be the first Veterans Day ceremony that I've missed since being elected.
No, I don't know of any online thing. I'll check with the ones that coordinated it, and I'll get back to you.
Or maybe, I don't know, Jason, if Jen can do a Facebook Live.
Maybe we'll see. See what we can come up with.
Thank you. And I have nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Anything we can do to talk to your boss?
I wish I sent an email to HR and I was like, what? How are we not off on Veterans Day?
Well, take your lunch break at 11 o'clock. Catch it on Facebook or something.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking if we did a Facebook Live, then I can at least watch it. Because unfortunately I'm a commuter and I can't make it here and back to work to American Canyon and back to work in an hour and still make the ceremony.
We'll know you there in spirit. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Vice Mayor Joseph.
Yes, I did prepare a written report and turned it in late this afternoon, so you'll see it in 2 weeks. But one item I wanted to highlight was the Climate Action Committee finally met after missing a few. And the biggest issue was approving a $50,000 study to inventory our greenhouse gas emissions, which we've needed for some time, so that's a good thing. But there was some add-ons that our share is around $6,000, maybe $6,200. And those add-ons would allow us to analyze carbon sequestration efforts, as well as track methane and other short-lived pollutants. So everybody on the committee more or less agreed that that was not enough money to be a concern, and that we would all go back to our respective jurisdictions and ask that we come up with the 6,200. Our share is 6,200. So I would just ask, if no one objects, it's the dollar amount that the city manager can handle through his spending authority. So I hope we can resolve that without much effort, because I do think it's important, and the sooner we get that information, the sooner we can start tracking our progress. So,
yeah, in talking with my colleagues, city manager colleagues, what we've decided is to bring these items just back as quick consent items. You'll see that on November 16th, so that we can get it blessed officially that way.
Okay, great.
Anything further to add, council, on our committee reports? Future agenda items? Anything this evening?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. I've been contacted by several residents, different ends of the city, talking about the increase in parking of RVs and trailers and boats on city streets for more than 72 hours. And it's just a concern that seems to be needing to be addressed through maybe, code enforcement of some sort. I just want to kind of bring that up, bring it to their attention, let the residents know that I did have a conversation with the city manager, and so he is aware of it, and we plan on addressing it. But I just wanted to make sure it's not falling on deaf ears.
Thank you. Councilmember Aladamus?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along those lines, we have had complaints about the parking on Silver Oak, as you're aware, city manager Holly. But you know what I noticed is there are several fire hydrants there that people still park next to. And I know on my street, there's 2 cars that always block the corner, like right next to the fire hydrant. So it makes for a blind curve. So I'm wondering if it would be too much to just go around and painting the sidewalk red everywhere there's a fire hydrant, because although the DMV handbook tells you cannot park within 500 feet of a fire hydrant, whether it's painted red or not, I think people are blissfully ignorant of that fact, or I don't know what words to use, but people are still parking right next to fire hydrants. And if there's a fire, I've been told by the firefighters, we don't care, we'll break your windows open and put the hose right through the car. So
I've been told the same thing. We'll talk with staff about doing some painting. In general, we try not to paint everywhere because it's a lot of paint and costs money. We got to redo it, every other year usually. So, but if we have issues, you're not allowed to park in front of a hydrant, and if they're causing other issues, yeah, we can get out there and take a look at those locations.
thank you. I'll follow up with an email about specific locations.
That would be helpful, please. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very good. All right, is there anything further for the council for this evening?
The only thing I wanted to add, Mayor, in the packet was a list of future items, future meetings. And next Tuesday, a special meeting, we're going to be having the council and a number of our commercial developers who are experienced with development here in American Canyon. We'll be sitting with the council in a special meeting to talk about our economic development study and trying to get that finished and get it focused and their experience with the development cycle. So we're excited to bring them on board to share their perspectives. And invite everyone to tune in for that. And then we do have a series of meetings to round out the end of the calendar year.
Very good. Well, we're moving into the holiday season. Without question, it's going to be a great time for everybody. But I think it's everything seems to get time compressed as we move forward to the holidays. I would say just make sure you take the time to enjoy it with friends and family. Mm-hmm. And with that, we have concluded our business for the evening at 7:54. We're adjourned. A long time. Thank you all.
Good night, American Canyon.
Good night.
Good night.